Okay.
All right, are we ready?
We are ready. We are recording. I'm going to record the presentations, but not any of our discussion, just so you guys are all in the know. Okay.
My name is Dodie Clark. I am a youth service clerk at the Anderson County Downtown Library. I joined the library in 2018. I have a background in elementary education and natural sciences. And if you want to learn more about me or network with me, you can jump on LinkedIn, and I'm listed as Dodie Mitko Clark. And thank you for this opportunity to share about our children's courtyard and the creative outdoor family programming that we are doing there. Now you might ask, outdoor program at the library, why? Why outdoors when we have all our collections inside? Well, a lot of things have come up this past year. Your outside space provides a safer alternative during the pandemic. It also has focused family programming. You can do a lot of interdepartment planning from adults down to children out there. Your stream opportunities can get messy. Hey, just hose it off outside. It won't mess up our beautiful collections or carpet. And I put stream there because that's science, technology, and everybody knows reading, since we're a library, engineering, art, and mathematics. Citizen science possibilities increase when you move to the outdoors. A lot more environmental education projects you can involved in. And citizen science, that is always service learning, which is perfect. Connections to our collections and digital databases, Discus, are endless. And I'll share some of those as I go on in the presentation, how we've done that. But you can connect all of that digitally and also our collections we have in our libraries. And blended programming. We've all gone to virtual, but also some libraries like ourselves are going more to hybrid, where we can do some grab and go packs and hopefully some small in-person programming starting in the summer. Creating a green space at your library. Where can you do this? All libraries are different. At our library, we have a courtyard. It was built into our children's area. And that's me right there, renovated it a couple of years ago. There was an overgrown Carolina fence garden. I renovated, added more plants. So it's a larger space where we can do some outdoor programming. You can also use the grounds at your library. An example we have here is outside that garden gate, which is usually locked, is more space that's not used adjacent to the parking lot. So we're planning on possibly using that as well. Or do you have a nearby park? We have Rocky River Nature Park, which is about 3 minutes from here. If that's your outdoor space, you can collaborate with whoever's over that park. Anderson University is actually over this. And maybe one day we'll do a story walk out there. What we did with what we had, and this is really important. We didn't reinvent the wheel. We used this 20-year-old overgrown garden and renovated it for educational programming. You see here, this is looking back up to our doors that enters our children's section. This is our Eastern Tiger Swallowtail, our state butterfly, and it's on some lantana that was already planted in that overgrown garden. We kept that. We removed a lot of things. We added herbs, different things like that, a walkway. So we definitely renovated our area. We repaired lighting and sidewalks. We added new benches, which I love are made out of recycled material. Themed chalkboards, musical instruments. This is actually a view out one of our windows in our children's area, and there's one of our feeders in our Carolina fence garden, and a little American goldfinch sitting on there. But you can also see the chalkboards. This is when we kicked off our Project Feeder Watch, and I use that to do a little advertising and to kind of hook anybody that walked in the courtyard and that we didn't catch while they were coming through the children's area. We also, without community businesses and nonprofits, we would never have been able to do this. We received donations of materials and services, grants and monies, volunteer labor and expertise. And the more people we got interested, and the more we utilize our online presence, website, social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, our website, and also our community businesses and nonprofit partners, we kind of piggybacked off of their digital footprint. More interest grew, and we received more support for the gardens and the programming we wanted to do at the library. How we use and plan to use this beautiful space. Project Feeder Watch. This kicked off in November, And here is our elementary children's librarian, Jennifer Sontag, and she is so passionate about connecting library resources and hands-on learning. This is in front of our Project Feeder Watch display, where people can come in. We usually have small groups and families. They can come in, they can bird watch at the feeders. The birds they identify, we take that information on the sheets they turn in, and we upload it to Cornell Lab of Ornithology, who's over this. They also have free apps, eBird and Merlin apps for helpful identification and also tracking your bird counts. We upload that, and we are partnering now with scientists, just regular citizens, to track migrations and bird numbers. So it's a great environmental educational opportunity. We connected some grab and go bags where people could come in, parents or guardians, teachers, daycares, anybody could come in and get grab and go packs. We had do-it-yourself videos on our website to go with pinecone bird feeder, birds and beaks, bird concentration. And also we had lovebirds right at Valentine's Day. And if you see our little bluebird, he's made out of a toilet paper roll. Of course, they provided their own, but we had the little instructions and also the connections to our website and video on how to. You can participate at the library to do this citizen science project, but also this helps to spark enrichment opportunities at home. If they want to do it at home, we have the information to let them know, hey, you can sign up, set up your own feeders, and do this at home as well. The Great Backyard Bird Count was actually this past President's Day weekend. This is also a Cornell Lab project. And we had the tweens were challenged to get out and do migration numbers of birds on their own and to upload it to the Cornell website. And this is one of my favorite, I think, service learning projects that you can do. And it connects the library to our collections. As you see in the display there, we have children's books, adult books, nonfiction, fiction, as well as a digital footprint if people want to go on and research things. On Universal Classroom, and we have there's a class on beginner birding. So that's another connection that we made. Now, I mentioned our tweens were challenged to do the Great Backyard Bird Count. Also, we have the Community Collaborative Rain, Hail, and Snow Network, if anyone's heard of that, or its abbreviation, COCO-RAIS, another citizen science project. This is Ahuvia Moorhead. She's our tween programmer, and she is so passionate about promoting sustainability, environmental awareness, mindfulness, health and wellness, balance. And she was very excited about this because basically you track precipitation in your area. We have an official rain gauge at our location, and anyone can come in, and we love to tap homeschool groups because right now, because of the pandemic, a lot of individuals have gone to homeschooling because for safety reasons, and also because all children don't learn the same. Some of them don't do well in the virtual format, so they're homeschooling them. And they can come in, report their observations to us. We upload those, and that data is used by everyone from climatologists, meteorologists, farmers, governments. So it's really exciting to get involved and track the precipitation. Ahuvia worked out a tween challenge, a rain gauge that they can create at home and actually do that. These are great climate and weather connection also to your collections you have at the library, and also our digital databases we do have. These were my babies right here. The Carolina Fence Garden, through grant monies, we were able to do a brochure, which is basically a self-guided tour through the gardens where they can discover South Carolina history through the plants and elements that are in the garden. And also, it has a digital footprint on Plants Map. I would love for you to visit that and see all the beautiful pictures. It's also connected to events and programming we have at the library. I keep it up to date. But the Plants Map there, you go to a plant tag in either of these gardens, the Century and Carolina Fence Garden, and you click on our QR code on the plant tag, and it will take you directly to Plant Maps. It will give you prompts to walk through these gardens, as well as information about our collections that we have connected to this, as well as enrichment opportunities. The Inaturalist app is something we use to track critters and plants. That is free app anyone can download on their tablet or cell phone, even their computer, they can access that. We did a pollinator partnership, and these are things that everyone can access virtually. We can do as a hybrid, and we also can do small in person, hopefully in the future. Our last one is our story walk, which I'm excited about. Our new librarian assistant, Caitlin Campbell, headed this up. And in our story walk, it is very mobile and weather resistant. You see one of our story walk boards right there. And that is actually Leaves by David Ezra Stein, fall and winter. And we're going to do his follow-up Honey for spring and summer. But this is a story walk which has a bookmark map guide that walks families and children through our library into the courtyard area. It has activities to do with it. So we have a prompt right here with our musical butterflies to do with this storyboard. And then it guides them right back into the library at our service desk where we can get instant feedback from our patrons. Our story time, we hopefully are going to be doing small groups for our summer reading out in our courtyard area. This will require registration, masks, social distancing, and we'll probably have to do it more than once because our groups will be limited. But this is our Mrs. Rogers of the library. She produces our Zen-filled toddler virtual story time, and Lisa Miller will be heading this up in the summer for us. Of course, the courtyard promotes reading. We love for anyone to go out there to read, rest, relax, enjoy the outdoors. And there are signage out there talking about respect people when they're out there, when they're doing the different activities. Staff breaks. Hey, every time I have a lunch break and it's nice weather like today, I'm going to be outside eating lunch out there and enjoying bird watching, looking at the plants and the fresh air. So we do promote that for all the staff at the library. Some future programming that we do have. Our seed library is going to kick off again. We did a soft kickoff last year because of the pandemic, but we're going to kick this off, and this for adults all the way down to children. And in collaboration with that, Ahuvia is going to do a tween challenge, which is actually micro gardening. So these are things that we can collaborate with and actually promote the outdoor space that we do have. And one thing I really want to point out is that the programming and collaboration with community entities makes this possible. We get instructors and lesson plans and expertise from places like our Clemson University Cooperative Extension over there in here in Anderson. They helped us with the rain barrel in the past. The Anderson County Soil and Water Conservation District partnered with us on the seed library. Frog Watch USA, we did totem boats with that. The Anderson County Art Center, when we did our Scarecrow Runway this past fall, they were one of the judges. South Carolina Project Learning Tree, this is also something that a group that's collaborating with us on doing some family activity grab and go bags. We tapped into our Anderson County Beekeepers Association and the Clemson University Apiculture. We want to do a bee blitz this May. We wanted to do it last May, but had to cancel, but we want to do it this May and use our courtyard space for that. Finally, I want to let you know, this would not be possible without the adventurous spirits and continued support of the board, the director at the library, my head librarian in the youth department, Diane Smiley, who let me run with these ideas. The youth service staff, Ahuvia, Allison, Jennifer, Kate, Jessica, Caitlin, Lisa, and Rachel, because this is some things that are outside everybody's box. They haven't done things like this before. And Rob, James, and Brian in maintenance did a lot of heavy lifting. So we worked as a team to get this done and to continue to actually develop our courtyard area. You see our contact information up there. That's the general email we have and phone number, but feel free to contact me. I would love to get you in touch with groups in your area that might be able to help you develop your green space. Thanks for your time. I hope I wasn't too long-winded, and if you have any questions, just let us know. And I'm done.
Dodie, that was perfect. Thank you so much. Does anybody have any questions for her?
Yeah, I did. So what would you recommend? Like, obviously, if you're going to partner with a park, it's a lot easier because you have that kind of already pre-built place for them to go.
Mhm.
But if you're just starting out and using your grounds or whatever, you know, it's obviously going to take a while for a garden to actually kind of grow.
Yes.
So what would you recommend to kind of help make it, not jumpstart it, but make it obvious that what's going on?
What you want to do is, we got nonprofits involved. I wrote some grants to Anderson County Master Gardener Association. South Carolina Native Plant Society is another group you can get involved with. Master Naturalist groups. These are the people that are so like, oh, I want to do this at the library because I want children or parents or people to be involved in those things. If you can stir interest in those groups of people, get in contact in your area, those are the people that are going to invest their volunteer hours, time, and money to get it done. When we cleaned out the overgrown gardens, I asked the master gardeners to come in, and I'm actually a member, but I said, can you come in and do, and they have to do volunteer hours. They cleaned it out in a few hours. Now, me by myself, it would take a very long time. So I staged each step. I would always post on Facebook, or I'd cross post to their websites and things. Hey, we're doing this. Are you excited? What kind of programming do you want to see? We hopefully will partner with our Anderson County Parks and Recreation groups like that, partner with them when we can do more outdoor small group programming. And the more interest you stir, the more people are going to want to be involved, and the people that are interested in outdoors, connecting the library to that. Now, the garden, for example, when I put it in, it was babies. They were not something you can do a huge program with. Now, I still had the plant tags, which took them to the website to see exactly this is what it's going to look like. This is what this plant represents in the Carolina fence garden. Native Americans use it for this, that type of thing. You have to start small and get people, and also get your staff, if hey, what are you interested? What do you want to do? Get everybody to buy into it. And it's a process. Start with a small area, or start asking people, what would you like to do? I think I talked to Diane and our staff for about almost a year. Hey guys, we could do this. What do you think? And they would start thinking of ideas of what we could do.
Jody, you have a couple of questions over in the chat.
Okay.
Somebody wanted to know more about the musical instruments, which Diane is answering. And then can you talk more about the Bee Blitz?
The Bee Blitz, World Bee Day is actually in May. So we were going to use it last year as a kickoff for our summer reading. And then ta-da, all this stuff happened and we had to move everything and cancel that event. But what we did is World Bee Day, I basically invited the Beekeepers Association, which I'm a beekeeper too. So I invited them to come, and they would have actually observation hives there. They would have honey sticks they could hand out, talk about bees. Clemson apiculture would come. They had a representative would talk about pollinators and pollinating fruit trees and what do we get in our garden, that type of thing. And they would have different areas set out in the courtyard. And we'd also discuss the pollinator gardens we have outside. This year, hopefully when we do it, we're going to create bee condos, which is for native bees, not honeybees. And we're going to put one in our courtyard in the corner, but that's going to be another tween challenge to create their own bee condos to put at their homes. So that's some things you can connect to your outdoor space with that. And those are easy. You can do bee condos, can be recycled material all the way to natural plants that you use for it. So, and that's what, so we're trying to connect all that in there.
Nice. You know, you're talking about partnerships and like grant ideas and some things like that. I mean, definitely go talk to your nearest school, because there's a lot of grant partnership possibilities with your schools through FFA, through the State Farm Bureau, through the Ag to School organization. There's what is his name? Ben works out of the State Department of Ed, and he has a lot of grant opportunities that he works with. So definitely, if you're thinking about garden possibilities, go talk to your schools and see if there's something that they would be willing to partner up on. All right. Any more questions? So to jump off of that, I am putting a link in the chat to a Jamboard to talk about STEM programs. What STEM programming have you done lately? Was it all virtual? Did you do giveaways? What did you put in your giveaway bags? How did it tie in? So if you want to head over there and put some comments, if you'd rather put comments in chat, if you can't get to the Jamboard, if you want to unmute and talk about something, that's okay too.
I have a STEM spring break camp coming up in April that I'm excited about. So
That is exciting.
Spring break. And I've split it up into 2 different sessions, one for a younger group of kids and then for an older group of kids. And I'm excited about that. And then monthly, I have a program that I do live called Got Science, where I cover STEM science experiments and things like that. So
If you are new to Jamboard, you can go over on the left-hand side and you can choose a sticky note and type that way. You can choose text. There we go. We've got some things happening. Oh, science experiments with the Steve Spangler stuff. Nice. Done some giveaway bags. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to see what people are going to continue doing with the Steve Spangler items. We just had so much fun with that presentation. I still want that book of his that he set on fire. That was cool. So you should be, oh, there we go. The box. Oh, with STEAM activities. That's fun. Who's doing that?
That's me, Rebecca.
Okay.
It
That's
took me a while
exciting.
to figure out how to unmute.
You're okay.
So we're trying to keep it with the theme. So like in a couple months, we're doing a water themed box. So we're going to have watercolors.
I was gonna say you're gonna put water in a box. Okay.
Nope. We're doing storms and sea.
Science program. Ooh. Play-Doh out of a jar of. Ooh. So it was Play-Doh that smelled like peanut butter? Ooh. I don't know if I'm okay with that. Send home science kits with exploding snowmen. Nice. Good, good, good. Well, and this is a great time to work on some of the citizen science stuff, like Jody was talking about, you know, having kids track the weather at their house and compare it to what the weather that's happening at the library, or, you know, there's all sorts of citizens at real approved citizen science things. Ooh, catapults. Yes. Scent, rock candy. Oh, that's fun. And straw rockets. Nice. Popsicle stick. Oh, there we go. Rubber band helicopters? Huh. Ooh, a magnetic car kit. Who's doing a magnetic car kit? Anything with magnets is cool. I want to know more about this. Whoever is the anonymous buffalo has to tell me about magnetic car kits. You guys are having too much fun moving things around on the board. It's hilarious. Also, if anyone is really excited about, working in a garden and you can't do anything in your library space, you can always come and help me do my backyard. All right. Well, feel free to keep adding ideas to that. We're going to leave it open. Thank you, everybody. Okay, so we are going to pause the recording for just a minute. Wendy, good morning.
Morning, all. Thanks for letting me join in last minute. We were kind of maybe going to talk to you later if you had time, but so I'm Wendy Copeland, the LSTA coordinator at the State Library, and I've seen lots of you before previously on other grants that we've talked about, but this is a brand new grant that Rebecca and I would like to work with you on if we can. It is a virtual programming grant, specifically technology for more virtual programming. We know that you're already doing virtual programming, and we know that you're looking at applying for, some of you are looking at applying for the summer reading grants just in the next month or so. And we had a few requests for people who need more technology to do more virtual programming. So instead of using your summer reading money, we want to have a whole nother grant opportunity that you can use to do this. It's going to be $500 in federal funds. It comes from the Institute for Museum and Library Services, which is our general LSTA funds that we get. And we know that you're in the middle of a pandemic, so lots of things could be changing day by day. But within that, we want to give you the opportunity to just do a little bit more online story time, live events with social media, or something recorded, a demonstration, or pretty much you can do whatever you want with it. And the applications are due March 31st, which is pretty quick. But if you need more time, just let me know. I can give you an extension because these are not competitive. Every library system can get up to $500. I don't know. Let's see. We've got, do you want to go over all the goals and requirements or just the 5-minute, Rebecca?
Go through them briefly. The dates are the same as your summer reading grant, so you don't have to keep track of anything different. The goals are fairly obvious. We want to give you some of the tech that you need to increase virtual programming and your ability to do more quality virtual programming.
And the requirements, the minimum requirements is we'd like you to do at least six programs with the new equipment that you purchase. And now it doesn't have to be 6 additional programs. It could be 6 programs you were already going to do anyways, but we want you to take care of making sure you count how many people attend those so that you have some outputs at the end. One of the things that we are looking at is you all might need different things. I talked to someone earlier this week or maybe last week, and some of their branches didn't have cameras and they were having a hard time sharing in between branches that were pretty a far distance away from one another. So they might get a couple of extra cameras. Somebody else might not have a good area to do programming, so they might want to get a green screen to just cover everything up behind them. You might need tripods, light rings, microphones, whatever it is you need, just let us know and we'll review it. If there's a thing that we haven't thought of, you can just ask us, is this okay? And then we can make a determination individually, case by case. The maximum amount is $500, and that comes with $257 of match requirement. So in that case, it could be your time, or it could be like you're going to buy 3 or 4 cameras and one of them is going to be provided by the library and the rest are going to be provided by the grant. Let's see. You can have indirect, most of our libraries don't. And there also is a section in the application where we talk about the difference between your objective, your measurement, and your outcome. And one of the examples that we listed is, so you might, your objective might be to use these items to film one program every other week for 12 weeks. The measurement,
6 programs. You
right,
need to
6.
tie in the purchase of these items to at least 6 programs.
So then the measurement could be you conducted a survey to determine participant feedback, but the outcome is the participants learned a new skill by watching the program. Does that make sense to everyone? All right. So we want you to clearly state your objectives, your outcomes, your measurements. There'll be some reporting. It'll be a very brief, just one report is one end of project report and one payment for reimbursement. There'll be additional training opportunities. We'll have a webinar about measuring your outcomes and measurements. We'll talk about best management practices for virtual programming. We'll also have another webinar just to talk about the grant application. And of course, Rebecca and I are always available for one-on-one assistance and draft reviews. Within the application, it's easy. It's the simplest one you'll ever do. I really mean that. It's who you are. Yes, you want to participate, and what are you going to do? Just a basic, we're going to buy X, Y, and Z and do 6 of these. And the 6 of these might be 2 of this, 2 of this, and 2 of this. They don't all have to be the same 6. And then you say, if you're targeting a particular audience or all ages, what are your objectives? How are you going to measure it? And what are your outcomes? Very simple. Now, this could be a little harder, is the actual budget, where you list what type of technology you want to buy. It's an estimate, I understand. If you think you're going to buy 4 cameras, I don't know how much those cameras could cost. You might want to buy 2 cameras and maybe they're $250 each. Or maybe you're going to get 3 green screens, 3 tripods, 3 light rings, and then you're going to send them out to 3 of your branches. Whatever it is you're going to do, you just kind of put it right here. If there's something else that we haven't listed, you can just add it in here and list it very simply, and make sure it all adds up to $500 on the requested amount down here. So you would just type in 500 at the bottom down here, and then you would have oh, well, it's right down here. Sorry, I didn't go down to the right line.
I was gonna say, wrong box. You're gonna confuse them.
Right here,
Oh,
$500. And then in this line, you want 257 at a minimum. And then this line, you want 727, I think was what we decided. And then these are the ones where you write in the details. You could say what have yous. Well, it's not $2, but you know what I mean. So 2 screens. And how much do screens cost, anybody? Or 2?
It depends on how big you get them, but let's say $50.
So let's say they're $50. And then you just go through there and add the items up. Anybody who needs help with that, we're here. And but it is, oh my goodness, sorry guys. I have not had all of my caffeine this morning. But yeah, so you can just kind of go through there and add the things in, and have your director sign it. And then sometimes they will give it back to you signed, scanned, or sometimes you can scan it and then just email it back to me. Anybody have any questions? I know I went super fast on that.
Oh, Jennifer's correcting our math.
Did she say I rounded too much?
Yes.
So how much
But-
does she want it to be? Does she only want $499.26?
Maths are hard, especially in the morning.
Oh.
Well, and it's entertaining because it's the match that always throws everybody for a loop, because the match is
257.
the total.
Did I not do
nonsense.
257? What did I put
No,
in there?
you put 227 or 727 or you got your
Oh,
fives.
so
and your
sorry.
twos mixed up.
Oh my goodness. So thank you so much for correcting me. I'm telling you, usually I can get that math right.
As Valerie says, librarians plus math. No, very bad.
Yes, it is. You are correct. It is. I hope the math is right up here because we rushed through this.
Yeah, we did
257.
257. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So it's 257 and 500 should be five. It should be 757.
57.
Yes, correct.
I have a question for Wendy.
Sure.
Wendy, do we go ahead and make the purchase and then submit this information to you guys for
No.
reimbursement, or just?
So what you do is you turn in the application and we review it. Then we make a grant award that says it's approved. Then you buy it.
Okay.
Then you turn in the reimbursement. Yes. So
So,
you want
if
to
there's
turn in
items that you've already purchased, we don't prorate. We are not Walmart. Sorry.
Yeah. So with that, if you have something that you know you want to purchase, you want to wait until after we approve the award, after we get it. It won't take long at all. Once you turn in the application and everything's approved and we review it, then when we do these the summer reading awards and these awards, your library will essentially get 2 grant awards. They're going to get the summer reading $1,000, and then they're going to get the technology one $500. And then as you spend the money, you'll keep them both separate, what's over here and what's over here. And then with the and then we'll give you the forms, and you turn in all the receipts and the forms, and then we pay you the money back, just like the other ones. And not everybody does the administrative part of them. So if you haven't done it before, we can go over, each little step so that it's very clear. Does that make sense?
A lot of folks are turning in their summer reading grants for tech, and we'd rather you use your summer reading grants for other things, more interesting things. So
it just makes your summer reading money go a little farther.
I just want to say thank you. I think that's great. And it really does open up what we can do with summer reading money. I thank you so much for that.
Well, we didn't realize that not everybody had everything they need, because some of you have done so much, but then some of you have been really making do with stretching that equipment. If it's not in every location, it's kind of hard to get it where you need it. And not that you can't share amongst yourselves. Obviously, you all can share wherever you need, but you're not all going to want to apply for cameras if you already have them. So we didn't want to say everybody has to get a camera. It was, what is it that you need technology-wise to do just a little bit more virtual programming that will make your jobs easier?
Yeah, and I also want to encourage you to keep in mind, not everybody needs a $600 DSLR. Yes, it's a great camera. It's great for filming, but you may not need that. That may not be what you most need. Maybe you need a refurbished iPod that you can do filming on, and you spend money on some of the other things like the ring lights and the Discords, the tripods and the things like that. Caleb asked in the chat some kind of group sharing. You are always, I saw Florence sent a question on the listserv this morning. Please feel free to chat back and forth on that. I'm happy to set up a Google Doc where you guys can exchange ideas. I know Charleston has been doing a lot with filming, and they probably have some good suggestions. Horry County has done a lot with filming, and they may have some good suggestions.
Marlboro.
Marlboro as well. They got a tech grant a couple years ago and have a bunch of stuff. So they'd probably be happy to walk you through what has worked for them best and what was a waste of money. So feel free to reach out on the listserv. Feel free to email me and I can connect you to specific people. We'll figure out, you know, this is one of the things that we'll talk about when we do a specific webinar on the grant.
And we want it to be specific to what you need. So not all of you are going to need the same thing, and we understand that. You know, if you still need basic stuff, that's fine. If you need one thing that's a little more advanced and we can pay for part of that, that's fine. It's just meant to supplement and get you guys a little bit farther and make your job a little bit easier. I mean, that's what we hope. We want it to make your job easier, not harder.
I had a question, Wendy.
Mm-hmm.
So like my library has almost zero tech.
Mm-hmm.
If I wanted to, could I use some of the summer reading in addition to this one to kind of build up a tech package that would?
We could review that case by case, you know what I mean? Because like if you say the 500 isn't going to get you anywhere, and then you say you need like another 250 out of the summer reading, we would probably be like, oh, that's okay. But if you came back and you really needed all the summer reading and all the tech, then we would wonder, okay, will you still have anything left?
Are you really going to use?
Right,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, but we can work with you on that too. No problem.
Okay.
And just an FYI reminder, you have about 4.5, almost 5 weeks with the LSTA grants. So if you have not yet turned in a draft, be thinking about what you're doing. Talk to your youth services team about ideas. Consider turning in an early draft. We always like to see early drafts. They make Wendy and I happy. So any other questions for Wendy? Okay, I gave you your requisite 10 seconds, so I'm going to assume the answer is no. Awesome.
All right, I'm going to head out. If you guys, if Rebecca, if you all have more free time later, I'll pop back in and you can ask more questions then if you've thought about them. But thank you so much, and we appreciate it taking the time today.
Thanks, Wendy.
Bye.
Okay, so we have Carrie with us. And oh no, sorry, I was reading in the chat. Bye, Amy. Thank you for joining us. Hang in there. For those of you who don't know, Georgetown County got attacked by ransomware, and they have been dealing. If you've been trying to get a hold of anyone in Georgetown, they have been basically unavailable because their internet is down, their email is down, their phones were down for a while. They have absolutely no tech. Send prayers and good thoughts to them because it's been interesting. And it's a good note to self to make sure that you always have backups of everything, because they lost a lot of their files and just everything. It's been ugly. So, all right, we have Carrie Rogers-Whitehead with us. Carrie, I am looking for you. I made you co-host.
Hi, I'm waving. Hello.
You are. Good morning. It's good to see you. How are you this morning?
Good. I apologize. I got the time zones and I'm like, but I'm here a little earlier where I'm out here in Utah.
We have been dealing with that, and that is my fault for not specifically saying Eastern and Mountain. So that's all right. I'm trying to get better at recognizing other time zones.
No, glad to be here. And I kind of like want to join your chat. As you're talking like Discord, I was actually writing an article right now with the librarian on them using Discord for youth services and how that's going. So I was like, oh, is that what you're talking about? So
We
fascinating stuff.
have, we have a couple of libraries that have become very active
It's awesome.
over in Discord, and we're also using it for a couple of our learning opportunities and cohorts that we're working through with some library folks, and trying to get a page up here.
Yeah. There was a Great American Libraries article that came out last summer around Discord and Twitch, which was pretty interesting
Yes.
about how they, how they were doing it. And I was interviewing this librarian about all the bots and different things that they were utilizing. That was fascinating. So,
See, Kim just made us both feel better. She has
There
a friend
you
in
go.
Utah that she talks to all the time, and she still can't
Yeah.
keep time zones straight. So
Mountain Standard Time is the redheaded stepchild of United States time zone, so whatever.
all right. So Carrie, I am going to throw you the ball. You are in charge
Okay.
now. You have co-host
So
capabilities, right?
Okay, so you want me, I'll share the screen.
Yes, ma'am.
And you just let me know if there's issues. Sometimes when I share the screen, then I was like, I lose everything. I'm like, where did everything go? Right. So
And
hopefully
just so you're aware, we are recording this to share out later.
So can you see it okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Awesome. Wonderful. No, I'm glad to be here. And I don't know if you just want me to get going or if you need to take a break between your meetings or what.
We just had a break about 20 minutes ago, so we should be good.
So you're fresh there. Awesome. Because I love to have chats and discussions, and I'm going to pull up this chat box as well here so I can see what you're all saying. So it's Rebecca, you attended one of our webinars with Digital Respons-Ability, and we're talking online safety today. And then I'll be back talking media literacy as well. And so I just, I was a librarian for about a decade. I was over teen services. So I don't know, we got teen services people in there. I did children's, did the story time for years and years, loved it.
Where were you? Where were you a librarian?
County. Yeah,
Okay.
I was over teen services for the county system. So coordinating and working with schools and all of this kind of stuff until I quit my job back in 2016. To start Digital Respons-Ability, but I keep working with libraries. So I love talking to librarians. And here's a thing I could use from some of your staff. If anyone's interested, I'm writing right now a book on digital citizenship in libraries, like how to do programming, policy, and I'm writing it with 2 school librarians from Texas. But I'm getting stories from public librarians about like how they've done this type of programming, what they've seen. So I've been interviewing people from different states. If you have a great kind of digital citizenship story or something that you've done, or maybe you work around social media policy, or you run like the Discord and you want to share some of your thoughts, like please contact me. I'd love to interview and feature the great work that you're doing out in South Carolina. I'm just gathering a lot of great stories public librarians are doing, so we can all kind of share with each other there.
Awesome. Thanks, Carrie. And we do have a couple of school librarians with us this morning as well. So
Wonderful.
We have a nice mix.
I love that you're working together with it. That's why I needed that. I really wanted the school librarian voice in the book too, so we can kind of cover both. But yeah, I love being in libraries, and I've tailored this to 2 librarians. I edited it some from what you saw at the webinar to make it more relevant to what your work is out there. Because yeah, so feel free to chat as I'm going in there. And we are on the ground here in the state of Utah. So we have a state contract to provide online safety education to all the schools and to like all the, after schools. It can be churches, it can be nonprofits, all of them. And we partner a lot with libraries on that, like having it out at the library. So parents and student education. We also have a federal contract teaching teachers on this topic as well. So yeah, I will always be a librarian. Librarians are awesome. So yeah, as I said, I'm going to pause a few times. I love to have discussion. I'm talkative, and I want to hear from you so we can all kind of help each other. And this is kind of what I'm covering, as Rebecca was mentioning earlier, there's some privacy and safety trends, ransomware. I remember at the public library, a huge ransomware issue that we had for days with coupon coupon downloads. Oh my gosh, the coupons drove me crazy as a public librarian. They broke the system. So I can feel that pain a little bit there, and some suggestions on making things private, some cyberbullying. And then I wrote teachers, but teachers, educators, librarians, y'all have been doing digital citizenship before there was a word for digital citizenship, frankly. So you're kind of ahead of the game, in my opinion, already. And librarians, especially public librarians, have that flexibility to do some of this stuff that maybe that's not being done other places. So we're going to talk about trends, some statistics, some strategies, and I'd love to hear what you're doing. And as I said, if you want to be interviewed for the book, let me know, because I'd love to feature your stories. So let's dive into privacy. And I have to say, when I talk about privacy, because we'll work with K through 12 and we ask kids things, they don't have the same, they don't look at privacy the same way. It's like we millennials, Gen Xers, older Gen Zs kind of remember a little bit of a world where privacy was available. That makes sense. Like, we grew up differently. We didn't have our ultrasound pictures posted on Facebook. When I talk about online privacy, especially when we're talking about education, we have to understand that they don't maybe see it the same way, or they don't even think about it the same way when we talk about that. And this is a question. And if you want to weigh in, do you feel like, what are your thoughts on privacy? What are the expectations? And sometimes I feel like when I talk with like junior high, even high school students, they don't even feel it's possible. It's like they're like given up in some ways. Some of them have, because they don't remember a time where it's not been out there. So, and that's a great point. Yeah, Rebecca, that what they share, the amount of information out there, they might not think of it the same way because it's just normalized. It's just kind of normalized things there. And this is not even getting into some of that. Well, I'm going to talk some privacy trends, but you got your biometrics, your AI, all of that piece on privacy. And sometimes I feel like librarians are the last bastion of privacy advocates sometimes out there. So if you have thoughts on that, like, weigh in. I mean, I'm not saying the expectation is incorrect, but I'm saying that there's definitely a generational gap and some trends and changes that makes it harder to have any privacy. So privacy laws, and I feel like I need to kind of update this almost a little bit now that we have a new Biden administration changing some of the laws on net neutrality. I don't know if any of you have been following what's happening in California right now. They're creating their own net neutrality laws. So it'll be interesting to see how that affects things on a federal level. The nominees haven't been put in yet for like the FTC and FCC yet. So we'll see that the new leadership, how this changes with US online privacy laws. And every state is different. As I said, like California has its own thing. They actually have their own laws around like revenge porn and things like that aren't necessarily found in every state. I can't speak for South Carolina law. You might know that better than I do, but on the federal level, you have COPPA out there. And this has become a big issue and discussion as we have more remote learning and online learning are they following things? There's issues of, kids are required to sign up for these things. The parents never get any notification from the teacher, or the teacher's like, hey, I want to try out this new app. I mean, that's great. Try out the new app, but then they just implement it without any type of like sign in, opt out, whatever it is. So the COPPA world is fascinating, but there are definitely laws. Parents have to be notified on some of these things, but sometimes that communication doesn't always happen. Oh, I'm glad you mentioned that, Caitlin. An issue for YouTube channels. They just they're kind of adding some new parental controls on YouTube too, just recently. I love YouTube Kids, but it hasn't been nearly as popular as the regular YouTube. So I guess they're like, oh, well, crap, they're not using our YouTube Kids. Maybe we should make this parental controls better. But it's an issue. You got minors on streaming sites and all of it there. So The Earn It Act was passed back in March 2020. It was a committee. It was not very bipartisan, mostly of law enforcement, that weakened some of those encryption laws. And this is a push and pull that we're seeing not just in the US, but around the world. So when out here in Utah, we work with law enforcement, like the Internet Crimes Against Children's Task Force that deal with things with child pornography. So I truly get where law enforcement is coming from with encryption. They can't always intercept the messages back and forth and what's going on. On the other hand, encryption protects privacy in the user too. And let's be honest, most people that are using these encrypted sources really just want that privacy and they don't want their data shared. But you also makes it hard for law enforcement to do their job. So some of the encryption laws were weakened last year around this time with the Earn It Act. It's interesting to see what this push and pull will be like. And I truly see both sides of the aisle, but when we get more privacy, it does make it harder for law enforcement to do their job. So, and yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, Rebecca. Data collection is a big deal. It's true. Where are we getting the information? Where are we storing it? Are they opting in? All of that there. So, and thank you, Betsy, for, I love the school library input. I've never worked as a school librarian, so I rely on that. So yeah, teachers get upset. They're not using their websites because of data collection. And I get that. There's some great sites out there, but, and you get to be the bearer of bad news, but there's a school district policy. Every school district can kind of, and then at the state level, they have their own policy too. So they have to follow those rules as part of a teacher as well. But whatever that looks like, these are some issues. There's a lot going on with US privacy laws. And so I mentioned some of these trends is this push and pull. Law enforcement might want more facial recognition. They might want more data collection. They might want less encryption. And then of course, consumers and privacy advocates push and pull against that. It is fascinating to see the effects of the European laws on privacy. So, and I have had questions on this from parents. Why do I keep getting these boxes about accepting cookies? And that's because of the EU, because you can't just have a website in isolation anymore. And that's why I think that the California and these laws on a state level, like the, what they're doing really affects things way outside of California. It's almost like you're passing a federal law by passing a state law, because websites have to follow. They're like, oh, well, I got to adjust this for California. Might as well adjust this for everyone. So we see that with Europe, why you have to be more notified about the cookies and data they're collecting. This digital authoritarianism, that's 1984 and there. But if you follow, there's a Freedom on the Net report, and they actually track freedom in terms of websites blocked, how much government surveillance there is. There has been an increase of that since 2018, and we've been getting a little bit worse in that digital authoritarianism, and we're seeing this with China and this horrible, sad stories of the Uyghurs, I say that right, the Muslim minority out there in the camps. They have used AI technology to gather and track them. So there's some scary stuff out there with the growth of digital authoritarianism, and how technology has improved so much that it makes it easier for countries to track and know and follow their citizens. And that's a concerning trend, and that is a trend that has gone upward there. So yeah.
Carrie.
Mm-hmm.
I was just going to add, I don't know if you attended ALA Midwinter, but there was a very large discussion there about AI facial recognition in libraries that got a little heated.
Really? I'd love to hear is it both sides of the aisle kind of thing?
It was, so there are some libraries that are using AI facial recognition. That's not really facial. They're using AI as door count instead of more traditional door count. And it's not equipped with facial recognition, but it could go that way. And so there are some libraries they're very for this, because it's a much more accurate way of tracking how many people come in your library. But there are a lot of people that are also against it, because it's one more step towards facial recognition, and nobody really wants that.
Oh, fascinating.
It was interesting. Yeah, there were a couple sessions at ALA Midwinter discussing that, and yes, there was very opinions.
Well, it's a huge debate right now in state legislatures, as a lot of them are in session right now. There are state laws pushing back about that. I mean, that's happened here in Utah. It seems to be, there seems to be some bipartisan support against some of that there.
Yeah. Well, and your biometrics, I have a friend that works in an academic library in North Carolina, and they're using biometrics to track, like you walk through this thing on your way in the library, and it measures your temperature and your heart rate to know whether you're sick or not. And if you're in all of the correct zones so that you don't have a fever, then it prints out a little bracelet that you put on and said, you know, you're safe to walk around the library. And if you're above a certain temperature or heart rate, then it goes off and it won't print the bracelet, and you're not supposed to be in there.
Wow. Well,
It's interesting.
COVID has eroded privacy issues because of public health. And there's that push and pull right there. Like, you want the public health, but you want the privacy. You want the safety, but you want the privacy. And it's hard to find, the pendulums has been swinging one way or the other, which that is fascinating. And I have been reading about biometrics, and I wasn't aware of things like your gait, how you walk, how you type. They can track, how fast your eyes are going back and forth. What are you looking at on a page? I mean, that technology has greatly improved in just a few recent years of how much information that they can get there. So yeah, and I talk to kids about like not sharing certain information. I agree, like, they put stuff out there, but even if you're not putting stuff out there, it doesn't mean that data isn't being tracked. And a piece I feel like needs to be addressed more in digital citizenship, which I'm trying to do in this online safety world, is more of understanding the systems, not just focusing on the individual, because you can not post, you can follow all the rules about your digital footprint and everything, but that doesn't mean you're necessarily private and always safe because of the systemic issues. So, I mean, we can talk about that for a while. This is like crazy fascinating stuff. It's like scary fascinating, like a train wreck sometimes when I follow this. But if you want, I have some references at the end. Look at the Freedom on the Net report, and that's pretty fascinating about what websites are banned. And number one on that, Frida, like the worst offender, I guess, in digital authoritarianism is China, of course. And you can, Google, YouTube, Facebook, Snapchat, Reddit, Pinterest, Wikipedia, all of them, and a ton of news channels are blocked in China. They recently got the Clubhouse app, which has been growing in popularity out here in the US, and they had like a brief window where it wasn't clamped down. And there's a fascinating New York Times article on that, of people in China being able to kind of speak a little more freely on the Clubhouse app because everything else is so shut down. So there's the term, the splinternet, that there are two internets that exist in the world now. There is the more restricted digital authoritarianism internet, and there is the more free internet. And there's a lot of tension. We saw a lot of that last year with the pandemic, trade wars issue there. There's a lot of the Hong Kong riots going on. And there's also tension, not just because between the US and China, but India, when they banned TikTok last June. It was like there one day, gone the next. And a big reason that it was banned is because of Chinese-Indian relations on the border. So you have this kind of separation of China from the rest of the world and the internet. And how does that affect things? And a lot of the concern, and no, 5G towers are not spreading COVID. I don't know how that conspiracy theory happened, but China's 5G towers are providing infrastructure for support for other countries, particularly in Africa. And it's a package deal. You get some authoritarianism and surveillance along with your infrastructure. So there are some legitimate concerns about that, although there's a lot of misinformation around that. But as countries are trying to like rev up, especially to have the broadband support, it's like they had to kind of go on overdrive, especially this last year, to support the internet infrastructure, and they didn't quite have it there. China has stepped in, Huawei, particularly the largest phone manufacturer, to provide that support to China. So This is another one of those fascinating, scary trends going on there of two internets. I mean, we're all going to be old enough to remember one internet. Maybe the next generation, it's just, you know, going to be one other one. And I mentioned TikTok as it relates to China, but this is another debate. And I want to hear, like, if you want to chime in on that, of like, what this debate of what happens when each country can ban the apps they want. And you can just unilaterally do that. Like, how does that work? What are the pros and cons of that? But it just happened so suddenly and was like hundreds of millions of people. TikTok was huge in India. And there's been a lot of like copycat TikToks and also copycat Twitters that have had a lot of problems in India there too. But a lot of the issues in India, they don't have the broadband infrastructure to support a lot of the, you know, that kind of wireless. So everyone's on their cell phone. And TikTok works really well on the cell phone. They don't necessarily have wireless, they have data plans. So that's one reason TikTok really, really took off there. But then you had a whole ecosystem of small business owners that were making money off it as well. So yeah, and I'd love to hear if I have never used TikTok for programming because I left the library before it took off. But if anyone else wants to chime in on TikTok, I'm bringing it up from a privacy trends perspective, but if anyone has a suggestion of how they've used it, I am open to it, to hearing from you.
I feel like some of my librarians have mentioned that they're using TikTok. I couldn't tell you who.
Yeah.
But I know the school librarians are using it fairly regularly. I hear that on some of the chats and the listservs a lot.
Okay, TikTok librarians. Is there a hashtag that you can follow? I mean, the hashtag for me on TikTok is over 30. So is there a hashtag? I'm curious. Which that is a kind of this is a growing hashtag. But yes, yeah, chime in there. I'm not talking about TikTok from a programming perspective, but a privacy perspective.
We go. Yeah.
Book talks. Awesome. That's kind of cool. Promote books in 60 seconds. Book talks. That's a great way to have some outreach. I will say this about TikTok. When I first started tracking it, gosh, like 3 years ago, because I try to stay on the trend, you know, for my job, I was not impressed with their moderating and privacy controls, but they have greatly improved them in the last year. So I will say that about TikTok and their community forums and everything there. They've really tried to, they banned MLMs, multi-level marketing was a big thing that they did recently because of people using that. And there is more moderation in the last year than there was a few years ago. So awesome. Oh, we got some TikToks here. Library, @library goddess. Wonderful. So please keep chiming in. I'm not doing TikTok on programming, so I'm learning from you. I'm just talking privacy and dystopian stuff over here. So love to hear something lighter, maybe. Lighten it up here. On the privacy trends, smart speakers, with 2020 brought even more smart speakers into people's homes. I'm bringing this up from a privacy perspective in terms of there are this, you know, how the wireless and how things are picked up and all of that out there too. But smart speakers, I also sometimes bring it up because of media literacy, and I'll be talking more about media literacy when I come back here, of how technology is affecting media literacy and how we are getting our information, not necessarily from searching on Google, but saying, hey Siri, what's the answer? And what are the media literacy potential consequences of that? But we did have another big surge of smart speakers in 2020. There are some think pieces that think we're getting near saturation of the market. We also have an increase of people having multiple smart speakers in their homes. How can libraries use them? What does that mean in terms of privacy? Those are some questions to answer, because it's become just since 2014, think about this. 2014 is when like the Echo came out. That is very quick adoption on smart speakers. And it happened so quickly that the privacy issues and maybe some of the cybersecurity issues hasn't quite caught up yet. Okay, so let me give you some tips here. And if you have any tips, and look, I love the Talkstar librarian stuff going on here. We got some TikTokers out. I love it. But I'll keep talking about privacy tips. And if you have any privacy tips, please help us out. I feel like we could do better with our secure browsers there too. I mean, sometimes that's a pain, and people just often want to use the browser that they're familiar with. So sometimes you have to force them a little bit because they're just going to pick up the default one. That's a big, you know, if you've been following some of the antitrust lawsuits right now with Google, that is a big thing that's come up, is that Google and Apple have kind of worked together to make things make default browsers on phones. And they're like, no, this is not a monopoly. Anyone can delete their browser and then install another one, and they're right. But do people do that? Not really. People just like use the default browser. So that, you know, if you can change up your browser a little bit, kind of push people a little there. I mean, I'm going to reference the Electronic Frontier Forum if you haven't followed them. They have great toolkits on lots of things, and they have like kind of like a plugin that is requiring HTTPS everywhere. Now, we're kind of getting to the point where we got HTTPS, the more secure systems all over, because Chrome made a switch a few years ago to push every website that way, but we're not quite there yet at full saturation by any means. So pushing the HTTPS can help with that as well. Some other library tips. There's the Library Freedom Institute. I don't know if anyone's ever checked this out. It has some great tips, some great resources specifically for librarians. Of course, as I said, Electronic Frontier Foundation also has some tips as well. The Urban Libraries Council, speaking of AI and privacy, has done some forums around AI and how it's used in libraries, and they have different resources as well. So they might be someone you want to check out there. So I really love this logo, the I crossed out, Library Freedom Institute there. But those are some suggestions if you're wanting to dive deeper into this issue or get more resources and help as you're trying to make your library more private. So yeah, you keep talking TikTok. I'm done with the dystopian portion of today's, you know, if you love this stuff, I'm a big fan of Yuval Harari, the futurist. He writes on this book, Homo Deus. I can type that in the box. A lot about privacy in the future and technology. If you love that kind of stuff, you can dive into that with the book. So
I'm curious, Carrie, how you balance, you know, staying informed on all of these things and not giving in to like total conspiracy mindset.
That's true. I guess I look at it like an anthropologist. Like I hang out on like the dark web and 4chan. I'm like, Carrie dives into the jungle. She observes the habitats. What is their culture? Like I have this mindset of like, and it helps. Does that make sense?
Sort of meta thinking, also, you know, staying outside of what you're doing a little bit. I like that.
Yes, I'm a lurker too. I think lurking and not necessarily always engaging helps with some of that too. But yeah, put on your librarian, your researcher, anthropologist hat there. Because when I talk a lot about these platforms and forums, I talk a lot about culture. You're walking literally into like a different country a lot of the times. And when we go to a foreign country, we need to like be a little removed and be like, let's observe things. What language are they speaking? What are their customs? We shouldn't just dive in. So, and I'm glad you mentioned that, Amanda. There is more VPNs out there for privacy. Can I just like rant about VPNs a little bit? Because a lot of the streaming services, like if you want your Spotify or your Pandora, they don't like VPNs. And so I'm a big privacy person, but I like my streaming music. And I'm like, and I get lazy sometimes about it. So
well, and sometimes even Zoom doesn't really like to work with our work VPN.
So VPNs are awesome. And I wish like librarians could just install a VPN, but you would have so many patron complaints because they can't get some of their stuff.
Yeah.
I don't have the best answer for it, I guess. So, I love that, Caitlin. Driving into the TikTok, the natives are performing odd ritualistic dances. I don't know, that's what it is. But let's talk some online safety trends here of what's going on. We talk privacy, let's talk some safety here. This is Carrie's list of what I see when I hang out different places or talk or read or we do a lot of surveys of students as well. So one thing that I felt like as a librarian, and maybe, you know, some of you feel this way, is that when you're on the ground actually working with young people, sometimes there's a disconnect between library administration and people who are on the ground working with the patrons. And I promised myself that when I started my own company, I was never going to have that disconnect, and I was always going to be on the ground with young people there too. And look, not to pick on librarians, but there's sometimes that push and pull between the reality of the on the ground trenches work and the people who create policy, right? So I try to be on the grounds, and this is what I'm seeing. So gaming has exploded. I presented on gaming trends a lot. So here's another shameless plug. It's not up yet, but we've been developing a gaming review website because we're getting so many requests when I teach and talk to parents about gaming. There's so many requests there. So esports exploded, but I would say even more than esports exploding in 2020 was streaming. And I'm not remembering the exact stats, and I'm probably going to cite it wrong, but like just in like November last year, there was like over 100 million hours of streaming on Twitch. I mean, when you think about that, it's just like mind-boggling. Streaming just became something that people would put in the background of their home because they were home all day and they would just stream all day. So esports exploded, but streaming definitely did. Some librarians are using streaming for programming and Twitch and things out there. But you know, there's pros and cons of that. Sometimes there's not as much moderating tools when there's a live stream, especially for young people there. Oh yeah, when I talk about gaming, all types of gaming. For sure, tabletop gaming, along with Discord, you have like Tabletop Simulator and a lot of those really, really great sites that you can just, Tabletop Simulator, you can put any board game on it and play it. And it's really realistic and looks great. D&D got like even huge with Stranger Things, you know, like, oh, wow, there's this game that's been around for 30 years and now you've seen it on Stranger Things, and it's only grown more because just people are at home, right? And as Allison says, kids are driving crazy watching streaming. So there's a lot of that. That's my kid loves to watch Minecraft videos, you know, like how they make it and everything. And he does the Minecraft too, but I'm like, why? I feel the same way. I'm like, why do you keep watching this guy build something on Minecraft? Just do it. But it's huge. It's huge. So I mentioned a few of these here on parental controls. I will say, like, if you remember the mid 2000s, we're talking like 2007, 2008, blogging was huge. I think when Blogger got bought up by Google and you had some different things, it changed the blogging system. I miss some of my old librarian blogs. I had an old librarian blog too when I started back in the day. It was like 2007 or 2008. I love blogging and I want to see it come back, but you know, social media kind of replaced that. But you had this whole generation of parents blogging about their kids, doing all the mommy blogger thing. And it is fascinating to see the shift of how parents talk about their kids and post on them. You see a pushback because those young kids are now tweens and teens, and they're like, no, mom, don't do this. So it's fascinating to see that change. We could talk conspiracy theories all day. I will talk more conspiracy theories when I talk media literacy with you later. Reddit, Discord, TikTok. I mean, all platforms saw more growth, but I would say in particular, Discord grew a ton in 2020, partly because they had the growth of that gaming and remote work and people just using Discord for work. Like a Slack channel, basically. So you have a lot of that out there. No, I like Discord, but there are certain, this is what I tell parents, there are certain private servers that are not for kids. They have a lot of hookup groups. They have a lot of porn groups. They just share, you know, porn and pictures or whatever out there. But I have sometimes less issues with Discord than maybe like a Facebook, which is much, you know, very heavily moderated, but you have to go and find it on Discord and be like into the private server. Like you can't just like, it's not going to just show up on your feed. And that's a big difference in the terms of online safety. So there are some Discord servers that the alt-right have planned. They alt-right planned part of the Capitol riots on Discord and some other places. The Charlottesville riots were planned on Discord. There are some very toxic places on Discord, but they're a little bit more hidden away. It's not easy accessible. It's not in your face. So, so yes, I'm glad you're mentioning that these kids have a whole online life because they're using their social media accounts. And can you imagine being a 13-year-old, getting your first account and seeing what your parents have been posted for the last 13 years? Probably wouldn't be too happy about that. So, that's great. They have an agreement. And I say this with parents, especially like the younger, the tweens age, is know their passwords and be on there with them and embarrass them, but not too much. So on safety, I think that we had some mentions of this around privacy as well, is making sure the LMS, whatever, or the data, or if you're an LMS of the school librarian, the learning management systems, or you're using the catalog, that some of those links and reviews are safe. So here's a true story from me as a public librarian that you might chuckle a little bit. So we had tons of kids after school every day. We're right next to a junior high, and I kept seeing, because the junior high kids would just want to hang out a lot of time, or we'd have programs for them. But for a few weeks there, these junior high boys in particular kept hanging out at the library catalogs, and I'm like, I know these kids, they ain't researching for homework. Like, that's not what's happening here. Why are they hanging out the library packs so much? This is very confusing. Well, what we found out was that there was a plugin to do book reviews in the packs. And so these kids were kind of like, didn't have as much internet access, and the regular public computers were more blocked. They found out by using those links to the book review sites, they can get on the regular internet through the packs, and we're looking at porn. So that's why they were on the catalog so much. And we're like, oh, that's a loophole. So just being aware that sometimes those plugins and outside links can be a safety issue. There was unfiltered, unfettered internet, and they were not researching on our library catalogs there. So these are some other suggestions I mentioned there. There are some great plugins on, securing the browsers along with using a secured browser. I use Ghostery myself on my phone, but there's a bunch out there. If you're using Chrome, they have a great Chrome store, but Mozilla has, Firefox has a lot of great plugins as well to help with that privacy stuff. But it's like the VPN thing. When you add these plugins, you're going to have some patrons that are like, I can't get to my site. It's this hard balance between privacy and safety and all of it as well. So I'm going to talk a lot more about this, so I'll kind of go by. But when I talk about media literacy, I say it is online safety. And I wrote a book for parents last year. I wrote 2 books, and one will be out in August. And I wrote an entire chapter on media literacy. So I went into the safety piece, trying to help parents keep their kids safe online. And I talk about sexting and porn and all this kind of stuff that parents are concerned about. But my chapter on media literacy I wrote, and I say this to parents, I said, I am far less concerned about sexting than I am about issues of conspiracy theories and online rabbit holes for young people. That is my #1 online safety concern. That's how I feel. So it is online safety. And we have seen this happen in real time. We have had public health issues. We have had death because of some of these concerns. And that's my soapbox. You can chime in as well, but I feel like we need to maybe shift how we talk about this a little bit, that media literacy is online safety. So speaking of online safety, let's talk about cyberbullying. And conspiracy theories, especially when we talk about young, vulnerable people that struggle to differentiate facts and fiction, have less life experience, that are maybe more susceptible to grooming tactics and all of that are lonely. All of this puts them in a really tough space. And so media literacy is online safety. So cyberbullying. So as I said on the list of online safety concerns, this is not my #1 either. It's lower on the list, but it is a big issue just because it's just more common. So why do people cyberbullying? One reason I got into digital responsibility is I saw so many cyberbullying incidents at my public library. No joke, there was a fist fight one day around Minecraft. I don't know what went down, but something went down there. So why do people cyberbullying, and what can like librarians do about it? So I want to just kind of get this out of the way because I feel like there's some misinformation. I have some people in the background. I don't know if you're all on mute. Or if you want to do that, you can chime in if you want to talk. Thank you. we got some noise in the background. Okay, how much cyberbullying occurs here? So this is from the Cyberbullying Research Institute. They have some really great data. They do a lot of surveys, and that's where I get a lot of my research around cyberbullying. Is how much does it actually occur? And they tracked this from 2007 to 2019. Now, we need some updated stats for 2020 for sure, because you know there's a lot of stuff that happened last year, but this goes through 2019, and on average we're dealing with about this is secondary schools, about 27.8%. So when I talk about cyberbullying, first of all, I don't use the word cyberbullying as much with young people because they roll their eyes because they've had like assemblies and talks their whole life about it. I mean, they will use the word drama, right, necessarily than cyberbullying a lot of the time, but it's not everyone. And we have this conception that every single kid is cyberbullying and it's happened constantly, but that's not what the research necessarily shows. Now, and this is not to like say that this isn't an issue, but it's not like 80% of kids out there that are dealing with necessarily this. So what causes it? There's a lot of reasons. There's not just one reason. And just like regular bullying, I think that when we make like black and white victims versus perpetrators, that's really missing the situation. It's a back and forth. If you are bullied, you are more likely to be cyberbullies, and the victims and the perpetrators are the victims. It goes both ways. It's not black and white. So what causes it? Access, I mean, just opportunity. You're bored. Boredom. We like to think of cyberbullying as like heroes and villains, but a lot of times kids are just bored and they want something to do. And this is what I saw sometimes in the libraries. We'd have kids there until we closed at 9 p.m. So like 5-6 hours, we'd have sometimes kids after school that would come there after school and stay there until the library closed. And yeah, we had a lot of stuff to do, but I can't entertain, I'm not a babysitter. I can't entertain these kids for 6 hours. So yeah, bullying happened. They don't have anything else to do. So a lot of cyberbullying happens between, just like with adults, between relationships there. It's not necessarily like stranger danger, it's someone you know. And this was a stat that I wanted to pull out, is that 40%, this is from junior high students from this study, that said they don't feel any feelings of guilt or shame. This relates, I think, sometimes to the boredom or the desire for attention. They're not doing it because they're necessarily trying to hurt someone. They're doing it because it's fun and they're bored and they want attention. They don't feel that guilt and shame. So is that because they don't see the person, because there's a disconnect between them, because it's normalized? I don't have all the answers there, but I think that we have to reframe the issue of cyberbullying from perpetrators and victims. Yes, thank you. Thanks, Drew. I heard a little bit of stuff there. I'm trying to talk loud. Hopefully you can hear me pretty well. So as I talked about, you know, I'm making it victims and perpetrators, but these are risk factors of being a victim and a risk factor of being a perpetrator. But as I said, some are both. There's a CDC report on youth violence that came out a few years ago that actually narrowed down the highest risk individual for cyberbullying, and they said it was an LGBTQ girl in 9th grade. That was the age. And you see this developmentally, you know, if you work with teenagers, like, you know, like junior high is a rough time, but once they get like 10th and 11th grade, there's a bit of like, oh, I know who I am. There's a little calming there. And developmentally, they're less susceptible to peer influence after 9th grade because they've kind of pushed through that. The difference between a 7th grade classroom and a 10th grade classroom is stark. The 7th graders are constantly looking and wanting to fit in and figuring out their identity. The 10th graders are like, this is who I am. There's a bit of that that going on. So that 7th through 9th grade is kind of a prime time for cyberbullying there. And this is the issue for librarians in terms of bullying. I said this myself, is that when there's long and unsupervised access to the internet, that's when you have more issues of cyberbullying. So, you know, what are you doing in your library? The library is a prime spot for some of this as well. So other higher risk issues, when we talk about risk factors, this doesn't mean this is going to happen to someone, but you are at a higher risk. When we talk about issues of sextortion, that means, like, you know, threatening someone for nudes, making them pay money, or say, I'm going to share this, or tell someone, or whatever, or shame someone. The average victim is typically a 15-year-old. So the CDC said the highest risk is around a 9th grade girl. Also, the average victim is a 9th grade girl. So that's kind of a high risk time there. Now, sex trafficking got a lot of news last year from QAnon, and there was a lot of misinformation out there around sex trafficking. Like, you know, the narrative that like a little kid is just going to be like swept off the streets, kind of, you know, came up with some of these conspiracy theories, crazy things about kids in furniture, just crazy, wild sex trafficking stuff. But the data doesn't support any of those narratives around sex trafficking. The kids who are highest risk for lots of things are highest risks for sex trafficking too. So a librarian, especially if you have kids that are unattended, that are homeless, that are refugees, that are a little more like disconnected, a little more outside their homes, they are more involved to be victims of sex trafficking. But just like child sexual abuse, sex trafficking, child sexual abuse, you are more likely to be victimized by a family member or someone you know. Same thing with sex trafficking. It's not necessarily strangers sweeping kids off the street, but there's an online, I bring sex trafficking up because the majority of sex trafficking victims are advertised online. So there's an online safety component to sex trafficking that I don't feel like is discussed enough. Like there's all this media attention to sex trafficking. So I don't know if you'd followed some of the news reports there, like a lot of these legitimate nonprofits were flooded with false reports of this stuff, but it happens a lot in families or with certain communities, and it happens online, and it's not kind of out and about like people sometimes talk about. So if you are trying to protect kids from sex trafficking, keeping them safe online is a component, or just kind of monitoring and giving them a safe place to be. So go ahead.
Can I just not ask a question, sort of ask a question, but also an instance that we had in my family, and I won't go into details because it gets depressing. And I can turn on my camera if that would be better. Yeah. I'm actually somewhere I can do that now. Oh, I have a mask on my head. So my son, who is now 17, but at the time I believe he was 14, he had met a girl that he really liked on Discord. And we were following, but we weren't following as well as we should have, I'll be honest. And we've definitely learned from that. Well, something he didn't realize is we were saving all of his pictures to Google. So my husband happened to look one day and found some pictures of certain body parts of my son's. And I, of course, went through they had exchanged phone numbers, so they were texting, and I noticed some blanks in the text. And we've realized, because of the conversation before and after, that this is when he had sent these pictures to her. And she lived in Columbia. Oh no, they went to school together. This wasn't on Discord. They met through online school. So she went to, so that's how they met. But he was under the impression that if he sent a picture in text and then deleted it from his text conversation, it would not exist anymore in either side of the conversation, that like she could look at it and then it would go away forever. And we had to like call her guardian and be like, hey, we didn't, we are so sorry because, and I guess my kind of question is, what we told him was that this was something because he was about a year older than her, that could, if her guardianship wanted to. Yeah, exactly. Nothing is truly, yeah, we corrected that for him. We were like, are you kidding me? Obviously it's not deleted. We found it. And just because you deleted on your side of the conversation does not mean it's deleted, period. It still exists, and she could save it or share it or give it to whoever she wants, or, whatever. And we talked about like the sex trafficking and stuff. Like, you can't just send these things, but you could also be arrested for, isn't it like would it be child pornography or something?
Yeah, it depends on the state. Every state has different laws on it. Okay. So that's a good point. There's a legal consequence. So
it was one of those things that we had some personal. I also had a young patron who came in one day and asked me. It was very nice that she felt like she could talk to me about it. But apparently she had filmed. Her mom came with her, and they talked to me because my son had been in class with her when they were younger. She had posted on Facebook a video of her doing a sexy dance in her mother's lingerie, and her mom found out about it by her friends telling her. So all these people saw it before her mom even knew about it. And she said she created the Facebook page at the library, so she wanted me to delete it. So they didn't understand how Facebook worked and how this isn't something that I could delete and it would just go away. So I guess like even like not sex trafficking, but just the innocent somewhat stuff of younger children not understanding, or parents and families not understanding how internet works. I've had one personal, and that was, I know that I should have been better too, but I didn't realize just how different he was in words and online than he was in real life, because it's nothing he would ever have done in person, but because it was online, he felt more, open to do whatever.
He thought he was deleting it.
Yeah, he thought he was deleting it. He was like, hey, she's my girlfriend. I love her. We're going to get married. He's 14 years old. We're going to get married. I can send it to her. It's going to be safe. And I'm just like, oh my God, baby. But like making sure of how being anonymous is so empowering. And like, somebody said about the digital, understanding that digital footprint, explaining that to people, having handouts, talking to people, explaining to kids. We ended up taking Facebook off of our children's computers, even though the age is 13 and we go up to 15, because it was just too easy for younger people to make an account for that access. And other social media platforms, we looked into the ages and kind of deleted some of that access, because we were having people going to things by accident, or people were messaging them and they're like, oh, a new friend, young kids making fake profiles, the wrong age. And that's more of the innocent stuff, but it can lead to a situation like the sex trafficking. And I just wanted to ask about, basically, was I right in the telling my son that he could have been arrested?
Yeah. And so what's your name?
Jessica. I'm in Orangeburg. Yeah.
I can't tell you the South Carolina law. I know that states are kind of like reevaluating, because you might have a 17 and 18-year-old together consensually dating. So is the 18-year-old a child predator? Not exactly, right? Like there's these gray, weird areas there. So I can't say that in particular, but yes, if you are sharing it. So let's say that he gets a picture from his girlfriend that's naked, and then he shares that to other people. The sharing of the pictures is also under that child pornography. And I will say this is another like kind of depressing thing. I told you I work with like law enforcement out here. They have seen an increase in child pornography and sex trafficking during the pandemic, because people are online more. So it's definitely increased. And that's a tough spot. It's a tough spot to be in. And I get where he's going. And when I talk to parents, I'm like, if you are, one of the things that I feel like we could all as a community do better is teach them about healthy relationships, because they don't know what is normal. Like teaching kids that like if someone asks you for nudes, that's not necessarily a romantic, loving thing to do, that you don't have to do that. But if you're in a first relationship, like a 15-year-old girl, maybe first big boyfriend, you're excited, you're in love. Look, I said this when you said that, when I was 15, I had a relationship and I said to my parents, we were going to get married and I was an idiot. But like I said, because his feelings are so strong and it's the first boyfriend. So you want to do things and you don't know what did boyfriends and girlfriends or what do these relationships do? Like,
yeah, we started getting a lot stricter with, because we wanted that whole, we're not going to be like in your face and you have privacy, but we started being like, okay, well, you obviously are not old enough to have that, right? So like, I'll go through his phone. Even now, I'll go through his phone occasionally, and he just, if I say, give me your phone, he has to give it to me, or I pay for it, so I'll cut it off. And we'll go through and see, and I've noticed some breaks, but not in a way that makes me think it's that kind of stuff. But I've also noticed that being anonymous, when he's on Discord, there's been situations where he'll say things or he'll cuss on Discord, and he would never cuss in real life, or he'll say something to a girl and I'll go, that is so inappropriate. And he's like, well, I wouldn't say it in, person. And I'm like, okay, you need to realize. And it made me realize a lot about if he who comes from a home that's very internet savvy, very understanding of the way all this works. And, I was a single mom as a teenager. So like those conversations about, safety and consent and like all that kind of stuff is very prevalent. What about those homes where it's not? And because if this can happen in my home where it is, what about those homes where parents aren't on their Discord with them and parents aren't checking their phones and aren't paying attention because they don't know how, or they don't know what to look for? And I don't know how much is our responsibility when it comes to educating, because it does get into a very touchy area when it's like, where are you educating and where are you lecturing, or where are you being mom and like all that kind of stuff. Yes, no, that's one of the reasons we switched to iPhone, was because I can see pretty much everything and I can tell them to turn it off, and he doesn't have access to Discord on his phone for that very reason. But that's kind of a thing, because I've wanted to maybe do like a class on internet safety or internet consent or something like that.
I think this is a really good
so I will stop
lead in to the conversation that we're going to have next month about media literacy and digital literacy with Carrie. So
good.
I think that I have done a number of digital parenting trainings at libraries. I think that could be another idea, like a family type of program at your library to talk about some of these things, or kind of have it almost like a bring your own device settings issue. And there are some great programs and stuff out there. Like, look, I'm not the only one. There's some wonderful stuff out there too, and that libraries can take that and run it in their own branches. And this is an issue, as you're saying. And as I was mentioning back in the beginning of the webinar, these are some systemic issues that we need to teach the kids accountability in these things, but we also have to push back on the providers and how they're running their platforms as well. So there's this pushing back and forth there. And librarians have a role in all of this as a third space, as a safe place, as a place where you might see these kids like I did for 5-6 hours a day, because I didn't always have parent at home, right? I worked in like a lower income area with a bunch of Title I schools. And so that was kind of the place that kids would go hang out. And you are in a place that you might see something that no one else does, or you might be in a place where you're not their teacher, you're not their parent, that you can kind of be that little mentor piece as well, for sure. So yes, there's some great stuff out there. I mean, I can plug Digital Respons-Ability. We're not based in South Carolina, but we can do virtual trainings or things, or provide resources as well, because this is an issue that affects the whole community for sure. So no, thank you, Jessica, for your story. I'm going to switch over to kind of like some more tips on this of what librarians can do. And I'm glad to, Heather, you're mentioning the media literacy. We're going to be diving into that next month, right, Rebecca? So it's a big thing. I think there's a lot more attention on media literacy out there than there ever was before. Although the librarian part of me is like, I've been talking about this for years, y'all. You didn't listen. That's how I feel sometimes. But what can librarians do out there is keeping them busy. So when we were talking earlier in that slide about risk factors for cyberbullying, there's a lack of education and experience and wisdom, especially as Jessica was saying, but there's boredom and access. And and being able for them to have something to do helps. But it was hard for me when I had them for so many hours. So we did like an after school snack program for them. We offered homework help. We'd have programming several times a week, but I can't fill, 20 hours sometimes, right? It's hard to sometimes keep them that busy, but if kids are busier in general, they just get up to, they get up to less shenanigans. That's keeping them busy is a big piece of it. Not shaming, of course. Roving helps. Roving is how I found out about the hidden pornography on our packs with there, because I was roving. So we had a policy in our public library because we just had so many schools nearby us. We'd have 100, 150 kids every day after school, that we had 2 people roving from 3 to 5 p.m. every day. And that was just kind of, you had a roving shift, you roved, you did all of it. You did like the snack, you did all the stuff out there. And roving really, and look, sometimes I'm exhausted. I'm like, I'm tired. I just want to sit at a desk. But the roving really helped with the behavioral issues and some of the cyberbullying and all of it. Just knowing, if a kid knows that you might come behind, you might come near them, just that presence does something there. So those are some things that you might be doing already on the cyberbullying. I mentioned some of this. I'm sorry, I forgot to delete the slide. I meant to move it and I didn't move it back, but so you can have those privacy tips. Some other privacy tips are, we mentioned VPNs. There are some public libraries that have installed VPNs on public computers, but as I said earlier, I have mixed feelings about that because of some of the issues of people being able to access things. There is a great site if you are looking for different apps, either in your classroom or in your library, if you want to use them. They give them privacy grades. So you can go to privacygrade.org and kind of get a sense of that app. And as mentioned in another comment, there is a growing movement behind more app ratings, kind of like the ESRB or the MPAA, of how we're going to rate these apps. There has been some legislation here and there and a push for that, but the ESRB, the Entertainment Savings Ratings Board, which gives all our ratings for games, is a voluntary organization run through the industry. And the same thing would happen with app ratings. It would be a voluntary organization run through the industry, because the government can't regulate that. You can take a 3-year-old to a rated R movie, no one's going to arrest you. The MPAA is just a voluntary thing that they all agree to. So this is what I tell parents. I said, look at the ratings, that's great. Look at the reviews, look at that. But understand, who created those ratings was the industry created those ratings. And there's no kind of enforcement behind any of it. So think about that when we're looking at some of these ratings there. If there's some other, I like end-to-end encryption. I've used Signal for years to encrypt my text, not because I'm like up to something, but I just don't delete my texts. Like you forget to delete your text, you send pictures, it's end-to-end encryption. That's a text service. Telegram is another one, although Telegram has gotten a lot of controversy lately because of after the riots, a bunch of people who were banned from like Parler and these other sites went to Telegram, and Telegram was also involved in some of the planning of the riots. That's that push and pull between end-to-end encryption and law enforcement. But these are some other just like suggestions. If you have any out there that you would suggest on privacy, and this is where you can report things. So yes, so there is because I work with the Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force out here with Utah. They're often run out of the Attorney General's office. So sometimes the ICAC might have a private provider like they do in the state. Sometimes they run it themselves. Every state is different on what they do, but there are free resources out there. I love ICAC and they're great. I will say this though. If you have sometimes the education coordinator come out, they are coming out from a law enforcement perspective. They are going to tell you the laws, they're going to tell you the rules, and that's great and that's important, but they're not coming at it from a prevention skill-based learning perspective. So I think that you can go to one of these presentations and learn a lot of great things, and you should. I've learned a lot of great things, but just because you understand the laws as a parent or educator doesn't mean you're really always preventing it. Like, it's the skill building, it's the other piece of it that can be missing sometimes. So when we go into schools, we build skills over 8 weeks with the kids. Like, it's a kind of a deep dive thing, because I can tell a kid until I'm blue in the face that this is illegal and you shouldn't do it. But that doesn't mean they're not going to do it, right? I have to work on things like self-regulation, social emotional learning skills, if I'm really going to prevent some of this negative behavior. So you need both pieces together, is what I would say. Understanding the laws and the systems and how the internet works, and also building the resiliency and skills to prevent things from happening. So that's my plug there. But there's some great things out there. Here are places that you can submit those tips. A lot of school districts will have their own bullying hotlines, anonymous hotlines out there that you can promote. So maybe you put up a sign from your local school district, or a sign or information so people can report, and you can of course report this as well on these sites. I switched some policy things around. I forgot to delete the slides, but we can also create those policies in libraries to help a little bit with some of these protection issue. Our communication policies, how available will these things be? What are the consequences if we're having a library Discord server for teens? Is there behavioral expectations for that server? Are images allowed? What's allowed to be said? What's allowed not to be said? What about our own internal social media accounts and policies? Are we doing that are we using our own user profiles, or are we using a library user profile? What does this look like? So if we are we need to create policies and update them regularly. And look, I love libraries, but libraries can be part of a bureaucracy and things can move very slow when we are updating policies. But if we're dealing with technology and communication, those policies need to be updated very regularly because it changes fast. I can tell you stories here. I'm old enough to remember having a library MySpace page, but as soon as that was done, it was Facebook, and then something else, and then something else, and then something else. It's hard to keep up with some of this. What does this look like with libraries there? So, and these are some suggestions of things that you might want to ask if you're working about your own internal digital communication policies. So, I mean, libraries are amazingly creative and tech savvy, and through this pandemic with remote, there's been more of these apps and communication tools instead of email that librarians have used. But they're also doing them at home. What is that? Where's the line? Sometimes the line can get blurry if you are working at home with all of this as well. I'm not old enough for the Friendster, but I do remember actually having an early Facebook page and Facebook groups for the teens. And the administration was like, "What are you doing?" And they didn't know what I was doing. I ran a Tumblr, I ran Facebook, I ran Instagram, I ran Pinterest, I ran MySpace. I didn't get to Discord though. So it makes me feel old. But yes, I remember a lot of librarians using Second Life back in the day, but things move fast, right? And if there are requirements among administration about staff using these tools, how is the staff protected from harassment? Because as we were talking about with cyberbullying, if you have a public profile that you are using to interact with patrons, then you are also vulnerable to harassment and cyberbullying too. So what does that look like? It's something to think about. And when I worked at the library, the policies hadn't caught up with the technology changes, and I was always just use my personal profile. I use my personal profile on almost all of these social media accounts, and it wasn't until later that they're like, maybe we shouldn't do that. But it was years. It was years I ran it with my personal accounts. I never had anyone harass me and it was fine, but I did put myself in situations where I was getting messages at weird times of the day. And, trying to figure it out as I go. So I'm trying to wrap up so I can be done at time here and leave a few minutes for questions and references. Let me show you the references and let me show you where you can contact me. So that's just, you can reach us. I'm not on Twitter. Someone else runs it. The great thing about running a business is I got other people to run the social media. Finally, I'm done. I I don't like running those accounts. Here are some of the stats that I got for this presentation. A couple articles I wrote, and I am, as I said, I'm looking for your information, and you can contact me if you want to share your story for the library for the book I'm writing right now. So I'm going to pull it back here, and we got a few minutes. So I got to log off in maybe about 5 minutes. So that good? So you want to, if you have any comments or anything, I love to.
That was great, Carrie. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you.
So yes, a lot of stuff going on in chat. If you have any questions, feel free to unmute yourself and ask them, or you can type over there. Carrie will be presenting for us again on March 18th at 2 o'clock, specifically on media literacy. So really diving a lot more deeply into this conversation.
The media literacy, is all around technology. Like, how is technology impacting media literacy? What are the trends, and how can we teach media literacy in this new environment? So that's kind of the angle that we're going to be addressing. So more of these tech trends, if you liked them here. So.
Yeah, and I think this is a really important thing for us to be thinking about. You know, we talked about this before with regards to story time and kind of screen time, and how do we help parents think through some of those things and balance for kids. And just because we're in this much more digital world now with the pandemic doesn't mean we shouldn't still be having these conversations about healthy amounts of screen time. That makes it even more important now. And having those checks and balances, and really enabling parents with the knowledge and the information to keep their kids safe, and be able to teach their kids the knowledge that they need to have to stay safe online.
Mm-hmm. And you can have a lot of that could become through digital literacy skills, and librarians are awesome at teaching digital literacy, but like, you need that baseline to be able to understand how to do the controls if you don't know how to use the device. Makes sense. So I think that's a place to start as well. When you teach digital literacy, you're also helping with safety. Oh, awesome. So comments or questions? Oh, make me feel old here.
Talking about Friendster and Second Life. Oh wow, that feels so long ago.
But it wasn't. It really wasn't. It wasn't that long ago at all.
It really wasn't. It was only 15, 16 years. I don't know. That's kind of a long time.
Yeah, I miss blogs. I guess I'm bring back the blogs.
All right, so I posted a link in the chat for the next session in March. If you want to go ahead and register for that, that link is there. I'll also be sending it around in between now and then, so no worries.
Thank you.
Carrie, thank you so much for joining us this morning. I really appreciate this. Will you be able to share your slide presentation with us so that we have those links and your contact info and things like that?
Yeah, just yep, email back and remind if we don't get it back to you in a day or okay. Today. So we'll get it out.
Awesome.
So.
Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. I'm going to head out and leave, and I hope that you have an amazing day, and thank you so much for the opportunity to geek out with you.
Thank you. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you.
All right. Whew, that was a lot of information. Good stuff. But and like I said, I encourage you to go ahead and sign up for the March session. I wasn't really sure. This is the first time that we've had her present for us. I'd seen a couple different webinars that she did for teachers, and I was impressed. Hopefully you guys all got something out of it. All right, we are gonna take a 5-minute stretch break. Go refresh your coffee, and then we'll come back and hear from Julie at Sumter County Library.
County Library. And we, my background is actually elementary education, early childhood education. I'm a teacher, come to the library for, to kind of get away. And so when we went into this pandemic, I've only been here for a year and a half. This was going to be my second summer of presenters and all kinds of things happening. And I made the calendar and then nothing happened. And so we were thrown into doing stuff online. And I was like, well, you know, I had my master's in technology. Yeah, I guess I'm gonna have to use that. I didn't realize I was going to be using that. I was going to come hide at the library. So, but that changed for me. So I saw some other people doing like virtual things like the teachers, because I've got a lot of teacher friends that are doing stuff for kids during the summer and stuff. And I was like, you know, I'm going to do that because I like to do stuff like that. So the first thing that I thought about doing, since we were closed and we weren't doing curbside until I think like I don't even know if it was midsummer, people were, you know, wanted to come and get books. So when we did curbside, I said, okay, I saw someone do a virtual bookshelf. And I was like, oh, I can do that. I can copy the book covers from Google, whatever, and then link it to our catalog. Now I'm gonna tell you, that took a lot of copy paste, and seeing if it would work, you know, did it go to where it needed to? And it was fine. And then some of the people were like, oh yeah, we can browse the children's books at school. And they're like, can you put more books on there? And I was like, oh God, I don't know. I'm not sure if I'm gonna have the time for all of that. But it was fun to make. It is time consuming, but it was really fun to make because we had actually got some of these books as new books. And so I was like, I want to, you know, share this with the patrons, especially the children. So it was great. But then I was like, well, we need to do something different because school's starting. And what happened is our story time used to be here at our library in our meeting room. We'd have 60 kids at least 4 times a week from Head Start and daycares come in. Nipa is our storytime specialist, I call her. And she would curate all that during the week. Well, they couldn't come. They can't show up. Our meeting room is, you know, got all our furniture put in it because we have no tables out. What are we gonna do? And I was like, well, maybe we can make a virtual story time, because I saw the teachers making virtual classrooms. And as a teacher, I knew, oh, now if I was a teacher, I'd be linking to all kinds of lesson plans and videos and things. So I was like, well, maybe I can do here at library. Well, somebody mentioned the Bitmoji. Well, yes, I know what a Bitmoji is, but some people don't know what a Bitmoji is, like some of my coworkers. I have Snapchat and things like that. So my daughter had taught me how to make my own Bitmoji. So if you don't know how to make a Bitmoji, you can actually go to bitmoji.com online. I use my iPhone because there's an app for that to make your own Bitmoji. You can change the hair, you can put wrinkles. See, I have a few here. And even lipstick, color, clothes, shoes, you can make it how you want it. And that some of the teachers were making like classrooms with their students like that too. But I learned, wait, I don't have to have a Bitmoji though to make a virtual room for kids to go to. So I don't have to actually be in there. So you don't have to make a Bitmoji. Now, if you use Chrome, which I use Google all the time, there's actually an extension for your Bitmoji so you can put them into your slides like I'm going to actually show you. Okay. So Google Slides is where that's where they were making them. You can make them in PowerPoint and things like that, but I know Google Slides, since I was out at the school district, that's what the kids used, is Google Slides to make their presentations. Because of course we were all Chromebook before even I left. And then now, of course, they have their Chromebooks at home and are able to make all of these things. So what you do is you start with a blank slide, of course, and you use the insert image from the web to find your backgrounds, your furniture, and your accessories. And of course, I was like, oh, that sounds like a lot of fun. And so the key word, though, that I ran into, or that I found out, that is that you need to use the word transparent, not when you're using the background, but when you're looking for items like such as these bookcases. I looked up bookcase on Google Slides, and I'll show you that in just a minute. And this bookcase came up, but it's not very user friendly. And this, if I were to move that, if I were to move that background, into here, it wouldn't work. But this one that I have here on my slide, the brown one, it has a transparent background. And so you can use that in your room. So it looks nice and neat. So that's the easiest way to do that, is look for transparent items. So you can do that. Okay. And of course, here's my Bitmoji holding books. Huh. All right, so you build your background, and what I did is I searched wall and floor, and I'm gonna actually get out of here so you can I can show you. You go to insert image and search the web, and this is how I got my kids to learn how to look for pictures of people, animals, and things like that. Wall and floor. You won't believe how much actually things that come up that you can use. There's so many things. It's like being at a store, maybe in IKEA, and finding anything, any flooring you'd like, marble if you want marble, if you want countertops, whatever you want. So all you do, you can drag and drop that into your background. And of course, you see my thing here. It says choosing is very hard. But what you want to do is make your background, and I chose a rug. You can go look up rug, but you want to look up rug transparent. Add these fixtures like I did with I brought this in from my pictures, and you do the same thing. You go to insert image and you upload from your computer. And this is our library logo. So I wanted that image to stay on every story time. So I don't know if you're aware or if your computers have the snippet tool. When you click on snippet, you can actually take a picture of what you have. And that's how I import it into my slides, is to save that background. And that way I don't have to go get my same rug. I don't have to get my same wall. I don't have to go get my same logo every time I make a new story time, because we do new story times every month. So I wanted a template so I could use that. Okay, I'm gonna go back to present for just a second here. Okay. All right, so after you get your items, like I said, you group them in a snapshot here. I'll escape back. Sorry, I was thinking about. So if you wanted to insert some images from the web that you wanted, let's say you wanted a lamp. I think that's what I had up here earlier. Lamp, transparent is what you're looking for. Let me see if I typed it right. And I thought this lamp was cute, so I can drag and drop them over here. And of course, they always turn out larger than they really are that you want. So to not skew it, to make it skinnier or not to make it any fatter, you want to grab it from the corners and come up, or the corners, whichever corner you need, and come down and you make it smaller. Click on it, make sure you've got it selected. And you could add that lamp right here on top of your bookcase. And see, I think he's still too small and he's hovering. So, there's just little details that might take you a little bit of an afternoon to get this done. But once it's done, you can have it and put your new books there and things that you want. Okay. And so that was easy. And then I can go grab and see this bookshelf. I can move him wherever I'd like him, but I want to put the things there like in a place where I want to use it all the time. All right, let's see here. All right. So you can add books, rugs. I got an easel. You can also add, a text box and put your text here. I'm actually in the middle of working on a storytime room like this for Wilder Elementary that's here in Sumter. They want me to do a read aloud, but then an STEM activity to go along. And so I'm going to read the book, but this is actually going to be my background. And I can put that in my iMovie and use it in my video for my green screen too. So actually these rooms are multi-purpose. And if you want to see one that I did for Black History Month, Miss Holiday read for us, and it's on our Sumter County Library Facebook page. And the background was made using Google and Google Slides to do it actually just like this one. Okay. And see these books they've got some of the coolest things you can add to your room. See, here's some cool things. So you can personalize it with your own text, your interactive links. So what I usually do with my story time is I'll go grab a book cover and then I'll link it to a reading or a drawing, and I'll show you something on YouTube usually, or even I think Storytime online with the celebrities. So if I were to click the little spot of love, it'll take me to a video that I grabbed from YouTube. Now, you notice there's no comments, there's no ads. I do this because as a teacher, when I tried to show videos, I had to be extra careful. And I know in the library, if I want to put something on our website for the parents to go and use, or their kids go to, then I want to clean this up. So it's called Video Link, and you actually drag and drop the video link that you have for YouTube in there, and it cleans it up. There's no distractions, nothing at the end. You know, I don't know if you realize that YouTube, you'll have all the other previews of other videos come up. And sometimes they don't go along with what you've been showing. And you don't want those kids to see those previews of stuff. Well, this cleans it up totally. So it's been a lifesaver. I've actually really enjoyed using Video Link. And actually that's what this is actually https:/video.link. And you can drag and drop as many of those things in there as you want to. Now, when you're dragging and putting in links like my little spot of love, if you click on my things in my library, I can see what I have linked and what I don't. Now, of course, my bookcases aren't linked to anything because they're just going to be there. My dinosaur here has actually got a video link. And all I did was I clicked on my dinosaur. I went to actually my link tab. It looks like a link, like a chain link here. And you insert the link and you drag and drop it right there and hit apply. And so that's how I was able to do that. Now, this one, I wanted to see, actually, and this is a really cool site on YouTube. The daughter, I think there's a daughter, there's a whole family that draws together. And so it's really cool to show them drawing pictures. I can actually draw this stuff that he shows us how to do. And the kids at school used to love it. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to throw those, not just only read alouds, but something other than just a read aloud to do. Let's see, next slide. Now, as I would create these, after I've created them, I would have to publish to the web. If you know anything about Google Slides, up in a file, you have to publish it to the web and you catch your link from there. And that's what I have here. But I thought, you know what? I could get my link. I could go on Facebook and put it on there. But then I would only see people who on Facebook saw that my link was there. I would not get a count of who has actually gone to that Storytime page. So what I found, I remembered this from something, I'm not even sure what, probably at school somewhere. The Bitty, I call it Bitty link, but it's Bitty, bitly.com. And it gives you a smaller link that's user-friendly. You can actually type it in instead of typing in KNOPSTL15. It's just too long. So you get a spot and you can actually customize yours. And mine for February is like Feb Storytime. And so if people want to get to it through that way, they can. And it's not this whole big sentence they have to type in. And it counts how many times someone actually goes to that page. And so as I was looking, we went from 13 views in September, because that was when I started them, to almost 400, I'll say almost 400. It's almost 350, I guess, in January. And in February, we've actually come up a little, almost right at near where the January was too, because I shared it with the right people. Since I have ties with the school district, I would send it to the school district office, but sometimes it got lost. So I went right to the people, the teachers. And since I have some friends probably scattered around to maybe 6 or 7 different schools, I sent it to them and then they sent it to coworkers and their coworkers sent it. And since the teachers are online, they want 5 minutes of just letting the kids just do something, or like in a breakout room, unlike we did earlier. They want, just 5 minutes to themselves still even. And so that Storytime, virtual Storytime, actually give the teachers know that they're safe in that little room and can actually go to those links. So it turned out to be a good thing. So that's why I'm still doing it. And this was my February one. And here's my Bitmoji. Usually she doesn't show up, but she did this time because I wasn't sure exactly what to put in the spot. So here, Groundhog's Day, it was one day. I have a link going there. You can actually see what things in my window here have links to it. I even got, I think it was Barack Obama and his wife reading a book together. So I was able to find some of those videos, but then clean them up through, and you'll notice all of mine say video.link, and then they have the link for the video. So the kids, the teachers give them the straight link to this, and they can go, you know, browse throughout, and it doesn't let them go anywhere they don't need to be. So, and I've had a lot of fun making this, because we're like, oh, what are we going to do for March now? We got to get ready for March. So it's been a lot of fun. Now here, I wrote down, and since I know you'll want me to send you the slides, I can. You can also add your own pets and animals to your Bitmoji room or your virtual room. This is our cat Biscuit. And so there's so many things you can do. This girl here, Glitter Meets Glue, she has a bunch of templates and things that you can use from her classrooms that she shares freely on Google. You can go and clip her couches, her lamps, her rugs. She's found everything for you. So it's really, it's all a matter of how you want your room to look and what you want it to do for you. So I've just had fun doing it. And if you have any questions about it, and you can email me. This is my my email for here at the library, somechild, and it's not just somechild, it's SUM like Sumter, somechild1@gmail.com. So if you want any help with it or anything else that I didn't go over today, just you know, write me and let me know. Anybody have any questions or anything, or maybe you might have done one yourself and could tell us about it. There's got to be more of y'all that have done this. I know I'm not the only one. I can't be.
This was so much fun. I totally want to go out and create one now.
I know. I
You
wanted
made
to
it
do
look
my
so
dog.
easy. I've seen all of these ones and gone, oh my God, that must be so complicated. There's no way I can do that. Now
But
I'm like,
it's
oh,
not. It's just cut and paste. It looks very, you know, I want to say, oh yes, it took me out, you know, blood, sweat, and tears, but it's fun to do. But now doing them every month, it's been fun. Yeah.
okay, I'm going to stop our recording.